In this vid, I'm going to be reviewing a deck by Pokemon2215 that he calls Celebi. It features Celebi and Mew, as well as several other Pokemon, but has quite a bit going on, so I think if we cut the Pokemon lines down, we can streamline this and make it a little bit more consistent. The starters in this deck are a little different than the typical deck. He runs Tropius and Maul. Tropius lets you search for basic Pokemon, but relies on coin flips, and Maul allows you to draw one card, with the option of discarding the top card and drawing another. While both of these are decent starting Pokemon, I think there's a lot of other options out there that are much better. If you still want the basic searching power of Tropius, I would suggest going with Stantler's Call for Family. It allows you to search your deck for 2 basic Pokemon and put them on your bench. It doesn't have any restrictions for coin flips or energy types like Tropius, so it's a much better Pokemon. For a starter Pokemon with draw power, while babies run the risk of getting donked, I would recommend Cleffa, which allows you to shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 6 new cards. Being able to draw 6 new cards and not having to discard any of them I think is much better than Maul's attack. While it's still a baby, throwing in one tie rogue in order to get the donks off of other people's Cleffas I think would be a smart move. One of the best starting Pokemon for this deck, though, is Relicanth. Its attack Prehistoric Wisdom makes you choose one card from your hand and put it in the Lost Zone, but then you get to draw 3 cards. Essentially, you're saving Mew the trouble of having to use its attack See-Off in order to put Pokemon in the Lost Zone. You can use your turn to use supporters, trainers, whatever you need to get the Pokemon you want to go in the Lost Zone into your hand, and then use Prehistoric Wisdom to put that right into the Lost Zone. I'm assuming that Blossom is in here for its Pokepower that allows you to remove 1 damage counter from each of your Pokemon. While healing is certainly useful, both Mew and Celebi, which I believe are your main attackers in this deck, have a very low HP and are likely to be donked in one hit. And if I were to add a healing element, I would much rather add an Ability Superior, which has 20 more HP and has a much better attack than Dance Until Dawn, which puts your own Blossom to sleep. You also run a 2-1 Cinccino in the deck. While I think this is an excellent Pokemon because you run Mew and can see it off to the Lost Zone and then copy the attack, I don't think you need a line of 2-1. I think a 1-1 line in case you do decide to put it on your bench and play it as a normal Pokemon, or a 1-2 line so you can see off one into the Lost Zone but still be able to play one. You run Mime Jr., whose attack Sleepy Lost puts the top card of your opponent's deck in the Lost Zone. Mime Jr. is much better in Gengar variant decks or any other decks that rely on the Stadium Lost World in order to get the win. You run a 1-1 Meganium Prime. I'm assuming this is so that you can move around your grass energy. I do like the card in this deck because if you have something like a Cinccino or a Muck that needs a couple of extra energy, being able to move those grass energy to your active Mew to be able to copy that attack can be very useful. And then if you think you might want to use something else, you can always move them back later on. I would recommend increasing this line to a 2-2-2 just to ensure that you're going to be able to get it out and that it's not going to be brought up with Reversal or Catcher and knocked out before you can use it. Another of your Pokemon that I believe is an excellent card in this deck is Muck. Sludge Drag allows you to choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, bring it to the active position, confuse, and poison it. Sending this off to the Lost Zone with Mew and then being able to use this attack I think is going to be very beneficial, just for a little bit of disruption to your opponent. On to the main attackers of the deck, Mew and Celebi. As long as Celebi is active, it allows you to attach 1 more grass energy per turn. Mew's power allows you to use the attacks of any Pokemon in the Lost Zone, but you still have to have the energy to use those attacks. See-Off, its attack, allows you to put 1 Pokemon from your deck into the Lost Zone. We can use that in combination with cards like Muck and Cinccino in this deck so that we don't have to actually evolve our bench to be able to use them. The only downside is that both of these Pokemon have very small HPs. At only 60, they're going to be knocked out in 1 hit by just about anything. Celebi's Time Circle attack, though, prevents any damage done to Celebi by attacks from opponent's Stage 1 or Stage 2 Pokemon. So if you're going up something that doesn't run very powerful basic Pokemon, obviously this would not include Zekrom and Reshiram, Time Circle can be an excellent stall while you can get a few Mew powered up, or some other alternatives like the Muck or Cinccino. I would recommend adding a few other cards to this deck to make it a little stronger. Jumpluff is much like Cinccino. Its attack, Mass Attack, does 10 damage times the number of Pokemon in play, while Cinccino's does 20 times the number of your own bench Pokemon. What I would recommend doing is putting a Jumpluff in the deck. You don't have to put the whole stage in, just the Jumpluff to throw into the Lost Zone. And perhaps a Leafeon as well. You can use Muck's attack to drag up a Pokemon, affect the special conditions, and then on your next turn use Miasma Wind to do 100 damage because of those two special conditions. It's just a few things I think that would make this deck a little bit stronger, and I would probably recommend dropping the Blossom line, or if you had decided to maybe go with the Superior line altogether because the HP of Celebi and Mew are so small. So now let's take a look at your energy, trainers, and supporters to see if maybe we can make this work. You currently have 9 Grass Energy and 6 Psychic Energy in there. Because both Muck and Cinccino can use 2 colorless energy to attack, I would recommend throwing in 2 or 3 double colorless that you can always attach to Mew in order to be able to attack. Going on to your trainers and supporters, the first thing I notice is that you don't have anything to really get out those basic Pokemon as fast as possible. So I would recommend throwing in a combination of 3 Pokemon Collector and or Dual Ball, depending on what you have in your collection. I think we can make a few changes to your draw power as well. You only run 1 Pont and 2 Juniper as your hand refreshers. I think Juniper is going to make you go through your deck too fast, so I would drop that down to 1 and increase your Pont line to maybe 3 or so. While Team Rocket's Trickery can be a very disrupting card, making your opponent discard 1 from their hand, I don't think it's a very consistent card. I do like that you run 2 Elm, because that's going to allow you to search for those evolution cards that you can then throw in the Lost World with Relencanth. I think you can drop your 2 Circulator because you're going to be able to use Muck's attack to drag up whatever Pokemon you want off the bench. When Pokemon Catcher comes out, if you're looking to just attack, I think that would be a better addition than the Circulator. Let's take a look at the recovery line. Currently, he runs 2 Revive and 1 Energy Retrieval. Revive allows you to put a basic Pokemon directly onto your bench from the discard pile, while Energy Retrieval allows you to take 2 energy cards from your discard pile and put them into your hand. I think we can drop the Energy Retrieval and put in a Flower Shop instead. That way you still get the energy even though they're going into the deck, but you can also put some evolution Pokemon back into the deck just in case you are using Muck or Cinccino to attack with rather than Mew. You run 2 Interviewers, but I think you could drop both of them. With around 15 energy in the deck, you should have no problem drawing to the energy that you need, and Interviewers therefore is just a supporter that you don't need to play. I would recommend that you'd remove the 2 Good Rod and put in Junk Arm in its place. That's going to allow you to reuse the Pokemon Communication, the Revive, if you decide to play it, the Reversal, and you also run the Switch, so you can play Switch as well. I'm not sure if you need the plus power. I've already recommended that you add quite a few cards to this deck, and the plus power may be something that you can easily drop in order to find the space for those. So those are all the suggestions that I have. Thank you for watching, and if you would like your deck reviewed, just PM me the list and I'll get to it as soon as possible.